Afternoon, Dan. Can you
Hey,
hear
good
us?
afternoon. Yep, good afternoon, Julian.
So, Dan, you were telling me you pay services good amounts of money, so no one finds your whereabouts and your face on the Internet of Things, or well, you have no social media presence, etc.
Not quite that bad, but yeah, I we'll go with it.
We'll go with that. You prefer not being seen
Sure.
on the internet. But anyways, thank you for taking the time to be here. We'll make this quick. Uh, it's just, you've been with us for a few months. I guess we'll start with that. What made you decide to join uh to join us at Prospera Partners? What we're doing?
Sure. Well, Julian, I met you at that multifamily conference in
Yep.
Florida, and you were there, and I'm not sure who introduced me or how we met up, but we ended up talking, and we hung out, I think, a couple nights and had dinner. And then a couple, maybe 3 4 weeks went by, and I don't know if you reached out to me or I reached out to you, but we ended up connecting on the phone. And um you were telling me a little bit about your businesses and what you do and different things, and we had some good conversations. And eventually I said, you know what, that sounds like something I would like to get into and see how it works. And that sparked further conversations, on the phone and different things like that. And we ended up eventually taking it to a more serious level, and going through the process of, let's try this, let's do this, let's see if we can make this happen. And it was just kind of a good fit. I think, you have a good personality. You were upfront, you were honest. From all appearances, you've kept your word. And yes, I haven't been doing this long with you, maybe 5 or 6 weeks, but so far it's you've been true to your word, and it's been an enjoyable experience working with you.
Yeah. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the trust. You were talking about on what you just mentioned, elaborating perhaps a little further, or what was your biggest hesitation before joining? How did we help you ease those
Sure. Well,
concerns?
yeah, that's a great question. In today's world, there's so many, um, there's the social media platforms, there's so much advertising, and there's so many people trying to, um, maybe the word scam is too harsh of a word, but there's a lot of people that don't have a good foundation, and they're just trying to make a quick dollar, and they use other people to get to that, to climb that mountain, so to speak. Unfortunately, the people they use, it becomes, one winner and a bunch of losers along the way. And so that naturally, if you are somebody who's worked hard for your money and you've worked hard to get where you're at,
Of
um,
course.
it can be something where you're very hesitant, because there's a lot of ML, multi-level marketing things out there, a lot of cut corners with different people. And so you just, as you get older, you really have to vet which direction you're going to go. And a lot of that comes down to the person you're talking to and getting a feel for who they are, what their value system is. Are they ethical? Are they there to, steamroll you to get to the top and use you for your money? Or are they there to see you become successful as they grow to become successful? And really make a team effort out of whatever the business venture is, rather than, like I said, using people to um, become independently successful.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always said there's more money to be made together.
Correct.
Always we all benefit more by partnerships, by collaboration.
Absolutely.
So that's part of my motto. Well, let me ask you this: compared to other business or investment opportunities you've seen, considered in the past, How does this one feel different?
Well, your team has great communication, and you as well. I've never got the impression that I'm being ignored or, you know, here, take the money, and then, we're gonna go kind of dark. So that's an important factor. Anyone that's looking to get into something that you're doing, especially if it's not something they have a lot of experience with, and it's important that the person they're working with is a strong communicator and continues to foster that relationship and move together at reaching the next goal. And so that's something that was evident, um, I don't see that changing with you. I see you as somebody that if there's a question, a concern, or even, something that has to be done, action that needs to take place, there's the ability to jump right in and say, let's do this together if you need any help. And it
Yeah.
really takes a lot of the work, um, out of it on my end, because your team is good and you guys communicate well. So it really does make it an easier process, for me.
Cool. And it's very, simple, basic things in business. The things you just described is just, I can't remember who said that, but it's so easy to succeed nowadays because no one else, so many of the people are just so lazy to do the basic things.
Right, right.
Yeah. So it's just doing that. Well, let me ask you, what are you most excited about in the next few months in this business?
Well, with any business, if you don't have goals, you're guaranteed to reach them. And, when you have goals, you're not guaranteed, but what you do have is a pathway to success, and you have a journey that you can enjoy in the process. But as far as what I would, what I'm excited about is I really, I want to see you grow, and I want to see volume increase, and I want to see, you know, um, as I said from day one, even before I joined your team, I said, hey, listen, this to me is something where, I want to see us get from A to B to C, et cetera, and do it in a way where we're communicating about it. So we had conversations about conference calls and regular updates, and again, solid communication about how we're achieving those goals and what market we're going in next and how well we're doing it. And as you know, I've contacted you several times, kind of trying to pick your brain and figure out which direction you're going and how we're going to get there. So that to me is an exciting process, like anything. If you're building a company, being able to check off certain goals um, is a huge thing, and it's very exciting.
Of course. Well, if this business performs as expected, how do you see it impacting your life day to day?
Well, I have other business ventures I do, as you know, and
Yeah.
for me, this is something that right now it's a side journey, that's working well. But if it continues to grow and it gets to a size that's, where we're talking about with the goals, then I could see it, impacting me in a greater way, um, success wise, and hopefully, allowing me to have more freedom to invest in other business opportunities as well.
Yeah, that's ultimately the goal with this. So, last question, if you were for anybody hesitant or had the concerns that you had, you mentioned in the beginning, uh, about joining us, what would you tell them?
Well, in any business, the one of the biggest downfalls is a lack of action. So, um, if you're not putting your right foot in front of your left, et cetera, and moving in a direction, you're not doing something, you're not gonna get anywhere. And I've talked to and mentored other people trying to get into business, entrepreneurship, and one of the biggest things that I see that's a stumbling block is overanalyzing, um, And then that leads to concerns and worry, and then fear, and then basically afraid to put money in anything because they're so concerned. They've worked hard for it, and I agree. Everyone's worked hard for their money, you know. And
Of course.
so when people work hard for it, there's a lot of fear, I think, for people that maybe didn't grow up in an entrepreneur family or have run businesses in the past. And maybe this is their first business they're doing. It's the first time they're launching out into the deep, so to speak, with doing something that's, you know, not a W-2, if you will, a regular job. It's more of a business, obviously. So I talk to people, and that's the biggest nemesis I see in those individuals is just initial strong motivation. I want to do this, but then when it comes to investing some money to make things happen, which is how you run a business, you have to invest. Um, Sometimes fear can take a hold of them, and they just kind of fade away, if that makes sense.
Of course. Totally agree. So overcome fear and take the leap.
Yeah, you have to. It's
Yeah.
no different than anything in life that
It's
can be
anything else.
exciting and have a lot of potential, you know, success. There's going to be points where you have to launch out in faith, so to speak. You know, even in the sports world, you know, whether it be extreme sports like skydiving or, you know, scuba diving or whatever you fill in the blank, there's a point where you have to have faith in everything that you've prepared for to go ahead and start, if you will, to take that step off the plane.
Take the
And
plunge, as they say.
right, yeah, and so many people I find are just not ready to do that. And when people do that, I find that more often than not they become successful.
And sometimes that's all it takes. Dan, thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy man. You got kids waiting for you back
Sure,
home. So
sure.
thanks again. And we look forward to succeeding and prospering together.
Great talking to you, Joanne. Thanks so much.